Greetings and salutations and welcome to the show at its IB Nation Sports Talk. It's Wednesday and that means Mailbag Day. I'm joined by my old buddy, Vince D'Addario. How are you doing, Mr. No School?
You're so formal. Actually, my school year ended about 2 hours ago.
Okay, so today was the official end.
That's it. So that means tomorrow I'll be on the afternoon show here at Irish Breakdown at 1 o'clock.
Apparently it ticks people off if I'm too redundant talking to you about your different jobs and stuff like that.
So, well, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. So
yeah, I know.
That's generally how that goes. But,
apparently I never knew that you worked Gatorade before.
Even though you worked just with me before?
Total annoyance when you had to mention that you were at Gatorade last week.
So. 17 years ago, you and I worked together for Gatorade.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah.
What a summer that was.
Yeah, it was, baby. 17 years ago is how long ago that was.
Sticky hands, sticky legs.
Things are so much easier now. So much easier now. So it's so great. It's so great.
I see one of the guys who worked with us that summer, worked under us, I guess. I see him fairly regularly once basketball season starts, actually.
Who might that be?
I don't know. Should I name names?
I think you should.
Tim Heisler.
Lax bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Is he working for Notre Dame now?
Works out at Corporate Wings.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yep. So
gotcha.
The last 3 or 4 years or so. Okay. Hey, Tim. Hey, Sean. Yeah. So
who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew? Yeah.
I know.
We had some growing pains.
There's a kid who played football for us at Adams who used to work at Kamar Finley / Woodard. He had two different names from time. I don't know if he was adopted or like a parent situation, but he worked at the other charter place out there.
Okay.
Until I saw that he's no longer out there, but I saw him once, like a year or so ago as well, when we flew out of that one. So, all right, totally irrelevant. Nobody cared about that but us.
Hey, that who else matters? That's what I have to say to that.
We're the only ones here, right?
That's right. Just you and me.
I'm kidding, of course, because our great dedicated listeners are here, and it's Mailbag Day. Great dedicated listeners. And so that means you get a chance.
It's on you guys.
Yeah, submit your questions and we answer them. That's how this whole thing works.
That's right.
On Wacky Wednesdays. So,
Tommy, don't take it personally, my man. We're just messing around.
It's a joke. It's a joke, Tommy.
Yeah, but you know what's not a joke? Wherever he got that pizza, because that looks really good.
It does look good.
Man.
But that was something else that happened last week. We were joking about something and people took it way too seriously. It's like, why are Notre Dame fans so mad this time of year? That's what I want to know. Why are you mad? Your team went to the national championship game.
Right.
One of the greatest seasons in recent memory, winning all those playoff games, beating the snot at, well, not the snot at it, but winning a physical battle against Penn State, winning a physical battle against Georgia, knocking them off, getting to the title game, smacking Kurt Signetti and those Hoosiers around at home, all in the process. Why are you mad right now? That's all.
Seriously.
There's nothing to be mad about.
My kids are outside playing in the sprinklers. Like, it's a good day, people. Like, today is a good day.
I think people are so used to being frustrated.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
You know, a kid committed to Michigan, and people will find things to be upset about. It's funny. I was talking to Brian yesterday. Because we were talking about the fact that people always ask us recruiting questions, and we try to tell people all the time, like, this is not that show. This is not that show.
Yeah.
But he goes, recruiting just isn't what it used to be, because with the transfer portal and NIL and all these different things, let's say you don't get a kid to commit to your class. Who's to say that kid's going to stay at that school for more than a year even? Kids are hitting the portal all the time. Like, the recruiting classes are important, don't get me wrong, but they're not the be-all, end-all either, because you're still going to supplement through the portal and you're still going to do different things. And, like, people need to not get so wrapped up in recruiting. I think that's my biggest takeaway from where things are in college football. Recruiting is not – it's important, but, like, don't lose sleep over it, because so many things can change throughout a kid's career nowadays. Like, I would say it's probably, I would love to know the percentages. Like, if we fast forward like 5 or 6 years and then we look back, what are the percentages of the kids that signed with a school and stayed with them the entire time, their entire college career? It's going to be less.
It's going to shrink quite a bit.
It's going to be such a small percentage. It's going to have to be, especially at the high D1 level. So it'll be interesting.
You know what's interesting? Some of these questions that I see in the queue here. Joe, we're going to save this one for rapid fire. Actually, Notre Dame, Arkansas announced the noon kickoff today.
I'd start another question about it.
Did you? Okay.
More of a comment about my preferences for noon games.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tack that onto the start of rapid fire. So we'll do that. We'll do that one in rapid fire.
Got you.
So let me see. Mark, given the potential for this year to be the last Notre Dame USC game, what are the odds College Game Day comes to town October 18th?
Well, regardless of whether it's the last one or not, because I don't think any of us can predict whether that's going to happen or not, and College Game Day isn't going to have an inside track on any of that either. Look, if Notre Dame and USC are either undefeated or each have one loss, or one loss, undefeated, one loss, both undefeated, both have one loss. If you're in that neighborhood, Game Day is coming to Notre Dame. Like that, I don't know what else is going on that weekend, and I should probably look that up before I start speaking in all of the
definites
that I'm so famous for.
That you love to do. Yes.
Yeah, man. But Notre Dame USC, like that's a layup. That's a layup for College Game Day, in my opinion. So I have a feeling that they would be there if both teams are good. If both teams are ranked, both teams are good, they're going to come.
Especially if both teams are ranked and there is this doubt, maybe by some miracle on the eve of the game or the week of the game, they announce there's going to be some kind of extension of the series or something, whatever happens. But, Game Day has to make up their mind at least a week or two in advance, typically. Like we already know where the first one of the season is going to be. It's going to be Ohio State and Texas.
Yeah.
But I think that, quite honestly, unless USC just stinks and they've got a couple losses, which I don't think they probably will by that point. I was doing the same as you. I was trying to pull up what that week's schedule looks like. Like you got
Ole Miss, Georgia would be a candidate.
Yeah.
As I'm looking,
Washington at Michigan. There's a little intrigue
maybe
there.
Are both those teams still going to be good at that point in the season?
Well, we don't know. We don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, like there's some intrigue there. SMU Clemson is that weekend.
Okay.
You got two playoff teams from a year ago. Utah and BYU, October 18th. Let's see.
I'm not seeing anything that's all that.
What stinks is they don't sort these on the ESPN. Like ESPN, it's cool that they have the whole thing, but they don't sort it by conference. So you kind of
it's alphabetical order.
Yeah. I mean, really, I think that Ole Miss Georgia game at Tennessee Alabama. There's pretty good odds that it could end up there.
That's a good one. It's right the first one right there. How did I not see that one? Yeah.
Yep. But I would think it'll be in the running, especially like you said, if they're both undefeated and or ranked at that point. I think there's a really good chance, especially if there is still a lot of unknown in terms of what's going to happen ultimately with the series down the road. I would think that maybe I wouldn't be surprised if that played into ESPN's thinking. Like this could be the very last one, so maybe we should be there, that kind of
that could be the tipping point, to just tip the scales towards Notre Dame. That's a possibility.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the last Notre Dame USC Notre Dame home game day was the Bush Push, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
I think that's off the top of my head.
Well, were they at the game 2 years ago when USC was undefeated coming into that game?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
That's what I said. I don't remember them being there for that.
Okay.
They could have.
It all runs together.
There've only been a couple in recent memory. What was the game when Audric Estime went out and it was Ohio State. They were here for Ohio State.
Okay.
2 years ago. That was the only Notre Dame home game.
That makes sense because they don't really double up usually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Especially if it's Notre Dame, since they obviously don't televise any of the Notre Dame games.
So. Right.
Mike, is Guerby Lambert out for the season?
He is not out for the season. We don't know exactly when he's going to be coming back. I'm sure we'll get more insight into that during Marcus Freeman's opening presser for the fall, which will be at the end of July, I would imagine. But he's supposed to be back for the fall. Now, I don't know when. Like, is it going to be in the middle of fall camp? Is it going to be at the beginning of fall camp? Is it going to be after the first couple of weeks? I don't know. But I am fairly confident in the fact that he is going to be back this season. It's just
a matter of when. Yeah.
Right. And how much time is he going to have? Because, one of the biggest issues with Guerby Lambert last year was he just wasn't ready mentally to play. And we could see that watching him practice, without knowing the plays and knowing what was going on. He was just a step late and he just didn't know what he was doing. He was a freshman, right? And so is he in the film room? Is he doing all the things that he needs to do mentally so that he's ready to go when he gets back on the field? And then also physically, is he able to lift? Is he able to do all the different things that you need to do to be ready for a college football season? So I believe he will be back. I just don't know exactly when.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to ask you is if, Freeman said, update. I don't remember him updating anything on Guerby at that.
He didn't.
Thing a few weeks ago.
Yeah. The only people that he updated were the defensive ends, the whole crop of defensive ends. He said they'll all be ready for fall camp. So
sweet.
That was the only injury update that we really got. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
He said, okay, Swan Dog is saying he'd be back for fall camp. He didn't say the beginning of fall camp.
He just said fall camp.
Right.
It's pretty open.
Right. It's a month.
And there's no way that he can make that
Right.
call at the end of spring practice to know exactly when he's going to be.
That's a month-long window.
They expect that he's going to be back at some point during camp. Like,
right.
And maybe he's able to get out there and go early, right away in camp. But again, you still have to get back up to full strength with the lifting and all that kind of stuff. Kennedy wants to know the last time Notre Dame and USC both met when both were ranked in the top 5. I can't tell you. I looked up on one of the websites that has all the results of that series, and the one that I'm seeing only shows the ranking of the winner. I don't see a ranking for both teams. So I cannot tell you, unfortunately. Because I believe Bush game, they were both top 10, but they weren't both top 5.
2006 is the answer.
Boom, next year out in the Coliseum.
So
that did not end well for Notre Dame.
No, it did not. It says in that game, ranked number 4 Notre Dame. It says no. It said number 4 Notre Dame defeated number 5 USC 37-19.
In 06?
That's what it says.
That is not correct.
Well, that's what Google just said. So that's where I'm at.
I was at that game. And
okay.
That is not the ending. That
Fair
I
enough.
Remember. So let me see. Let me look this up here again.
And I said it doesn't say football though, so who knows what matchup that was. 37-19 does not feel like a football score, by the way.
That's true. What scored? Well, I mean, it is a football score, but
19 is a tough number to get to.
Yeah, 44-24.
Yeah.
November 26th.
So I don't know what the AI overview of Google thinks happened. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we can put that one to rest.
Yeah, I don't know. The answer is I don't know.
Kevin, I like that. What do you call these things? The
Avatar?
Avatar. Thank you. Nice little rocked up leprechaun in Kevin's avatar there.
Leprechaun.
Do we have a field goal kicker?
Technically, yeah. Yeah, there's a field goal kicker.
How well he kicks.
I think that remains to be seen, to be perfectly honest with you, because we didn't see a whole lot. Obviously, in the spring game, we saw the first kick miss horribly. It's that Burnett is his last name, right?
Yeah.
If I remember right. So he did kick very horribly the first time, but then after that, every kick was pure and everything looked good. Noah Burnett. So yes, they have a kicker. We'll see how he does during game action. I chalk up that first one to just first time at Notre Dame Stadium, nerves, whatever. It's whatever, because every kick after that was spot on. So they have him, and then they have one backup kicker. And technically they have two backup kickers because the Schmidt kid, who's a freshman, is a kicker / punter. And he will be, well, he's probably on campus now. So,
well, look, don't forget, Mitch Jeter was a little shaky, in his spring.
Yeah, that's true.
As well,
really bad.
And he started off pretty good, and obviously then the injury is kind of what derailed him. But look at how things turned out by the end. The massive field goal against Penn State, and he was
clutch.
It was pretty money down the stretch.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it before, and Marty Biaggi has talked about it before. Just the fact that these guys get on the snapper, the holder, the kicker, once they figure out who those three parts are going to be in the operation, and they have time to work together on that over the summer, snap, place, kick, that whole thing.
Yep.
Like once they get the rhythm of that down, it tends to bode pretty well for the kicker. Like that, like just something little like that tends to matter.
Agreed.
All right. Glad we didn't have to disagree about that. I thought you were maybe going to lean into your kicker expertise.
Well, I'm willing to give him not a pass, but I'm willing to forego my opinion until I see more. You know what I mean? Like, I just haven't seen enough. And, he, like I said, he had one bad kick and the rest were all great. So
you've got to trust these guys enough that they've been through this now a few times. They're pretty much leaning into the transfer portal for kickers every year, which I like. I would rather go that direction than invest a full scholarship in a young kicker. I know that you would feel the opposite of that.
No, I actually don't. I actually don't feel the opposite. I actually feel that that's accurate, and that's what they should be doing. I mean, the roster shrinkage, roster limits hit no position group harder than specialists. I mean, that's just reality. And my son and I, when we were going through the whole recruiting process before that was even a thing, it was understood, like, unless you were like a dude, you were a walk-on to start. And then once you got the starting position, then you get a full scholarship. And I remember driving home from one of our visits, and, we were having the conversation about it. My kid was like, okay. He goes, that means I got to earn it. Like, he was totally cool with that. It's just, that's going away now. Like, there's just not that many opportunities, and more guys are now going to do the transfer portal thing. I mean, the Ball State kicker is now at Ohio State. I mean, just, it's across the board. I mean, that's what all of these schools are doing. They're all basically farming the minor leagues, and then they're bringing guys up for 1 year or 2 years, and that's going to be the norm. So, maybe he still has a chance to kick at Notre Dame.
I'll just go ahead and throw this in there since Tommy's kind of following up. He says, do we see more Notre Dame pursuing more dual threat kickers with 100%. The roster size being limited? And I mean, most of these guys out of high school are dual threat anyway. Like, if you're the kicker, you're also the punter on your high school team more times than not. And if you're, vice versa, right?
Yeah, you can do both. Usually guys in the past were really specializing once they started to go to college and things like that. I think you're going to see guys specializing in punting and kicking, being combo guys, much more now. And I think
it would make sense.
You've got all these different.
What do they have to do anyway, right?
100%.
Like, go over there and kick while the rest of us are actually working.
Wow. Okay.
I was channeling my inner Reggie Brooks with that.
I figured as much. It's all good. It's funny because obviously place kicking, kicking off, and punting. Those are the three different styles of kicking that have to be done in the game. And they're all just drastically different. But now you've got kicker rankings, you've got punter rankings. I really think in the next couple of years, they're going to have combo rankings where it's going to be like, okay, this is the best Tommy dual threat, the best combo kicker punter in the nation. You know what I mean? I think you're going to start seeing that. The Schmidt kid that they brought in was the best combo kid in the nation. No question about it. and he will probably be the kickoff guy as a freshman because he can literally put it out of the back of the end zone every single time. No problem. He's just got a huge leg, and that is what made him the number one kicker in the country.
Yeah,
is his huge leg. He's not the most accurate place kicker, but he can boom the ball, and that's why he's the number one punter, number one combo, and he's like top 5 kicker. It's just because he's got such distance on his kicks. I mean, he can just boom the thing. He's a big boy too.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Get the most out of those scholarships. Bring in guys who can do a little bit of both. Dude. Kennedy, back to the Notre Dame USC thing. Wasn't Rodney Peete USC versus Tony Rice Notre Dame a top 5 matchup at USC? It indeed was. My
and
friend.
Maybe the last time.
Number 1 Notre Dame versus number 2 USC. I just can't remember if there have been some top 10 matchups.
Sure. But there's just been so many times where one's
right.
here and one's down here,
exactly.
And then vice versa. That just seemed to happen more often than not over the last 20 years or so.
I can tell you with certainty that was number 1 versus number 2. What I can't tell you is what other, when they've met as top 5 teams in between then. Because typically what's happened with that rivalry is kind of what you were saying. One team is really good and the other is just kind of so-so most of the time. That's kind of how it's been. So there haven't been a whole lot of opportunities. Mark wants to know, does the heavy usage of Aeneas Williams as the third down pass blocking back hurt the draft stock evaluation of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price?
I don't think so, but I also don't think that that's going to be the case this year. That was the case under the last running backs coach. I think you're going to start veering away from a straight up third down back. I think you're going to see more Love and Price on third down. So that will end up helping their draft stock. Now we're going to see what the actual usage is, because as we've discussed in the past, these guys are very well aware of the tread on their tires and they want to have all the tread when they go to the NFL. And so what is that going to look like? But I think you're going to see a lot more 1-2 on third down than bringing in the third. That's what I think is going to happen.
And even if not, you still pass on other downs. So those guys are going to get other pass down blocking opportunities. And the question is going to be when the NFL guys look at the film is how you do with the opportunities that you're given. And Jeremiah Love's a pretty good pass protector. And that's one thing that is fairly standard for any running backs coach is if you're going to get on the field, you've got to be able to pass block to some extent. And Love's a pretty good one. So I don't think that hurts his stock. But to your point as well, Jaywan Sider said during the spring that you got to have Jeremiah Love on third down.
Absolutely.
On the field on third down more often. So whether that's in the backfield, lined up wide, that's to be seen. But feels like he's going to be on the field on third down a lot more this year, which I am all in on.
Yeah, me too. 100%. I'd be all in on having both of them, both those guys on the field on third down. I just think that gives you some matchup nightmares for the defense.
Tyler wants to know what position group most excited for this season.
Can we say what position group are we most excited for outside of quarterback? Because I think
I think that's what it needs to be.
Is that fair? Because I think we're all excited to see whoever the starting quarterback is going to be and what that looks like.
I think most questions we could preface with the exception of the quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I would say I'm really excited to watch the offensive line. I know that's not a sexy answer, but it's going to be one of the best groups in the country. And I just love really good offensive line play. So I'm good with it. So that would definitely be one. And frankly, I'm really excited to potentially see KVA and Bowen on the field at the same time and seeing what that looks like. So I'll say linebackers on defense, and I will say offensive line on the offense.
All right. I'm going to go a completely different direction, and I'm going to say wide receivers. I'm anxiously awaiting the true breakout of this position group that we've been anticipating and hoping for and waiting on year after year after year. And I think we're finally going to see it this year. A big part of it is going to be because of who's throwing them the football. But I think we're going to see finally a group of wide receivers show its full potential at Notre Dame. So that's the one that I'm
I like it.
Most excited to see.
I like it.
I don't think it's just wishful thinking.
It's one of the best things about football, though, is all these position groups are interconnected and dependent on, what some of the other position groups are doing. You know what I mean? So I agree. It would be nice to have a dominant wide receiving room because there hasn't been one in a very, very long time.
Andre follows that up. He says, I understand wide receiver recruiting has been a challenge. Do you believe we need to have a solid to great year for the wide receivers in a 27 class to really give? He lost me at the end of that sentence there. Am I missing something? I think maybe he had a typo.
To give the passing game a chance, maybe?
Basically, do we need a big year this year for, I think he's saying, the 2027 wide receiver recruiting class to kind of blossom?
This is
show the spoilers of that.
Andre, I couldn't agree with you more. We've been asked a lot about if the offense breaks out and the wide receiving core breaks out, if they're going to be able to flip 26 kids. And I'm pretty adamant that that's not going to happen, but I do think it will have an impact on the 27 class. I really do. I think it's going to have a big impact on the 27 class, to be honest with you. And now we're not going to see the fruits of that labor for a while, at Notre Dame, but with the way the calendar is just so sped up these days, the 26 class will pretty much be in the bag during the season with very few exceptions. Mm-hmm. The 27 class is still looking, and they're still trying to figure it out. And so I think it could very much affect the 27 class, just like I think the national championship game will affect the 27 class more than the 26 class. All of those successes will be 27 and down. But as long as you keep having success, then, obviously it will turn into recruiting success. But yeah, specifically to the wide receiving room, I really do think it's the 27 class that will feel that one in a positive way.
Totally in on that. I think that's this 26 class is filling up, and they've got some interesting prospects in there. I know that
it's not a bad class by any stretch. But
I'm talking about receivers specifically, obviously. But yeah. I mean, they've got some good receivers in there, just like they've got some good receivers on the field. But I don't, as we've said before, I don't think you can expect what happens during this season to impact the 2026 recruiting class. That's probably the best insights we have on recruiting. But
gonna get.
Andre says he hates AI with the typos. You know what I hate is, like with these websites, when I'm typing in names of these players like Jeremiah, you don't know how many times.
I know.
And I've typed Jeremiah with the Y, obviously. It'll get auto-corrected, and it just ticks me off. It's like, you shouldn't be auto-correcting a name. It's one thing to autocorrect a common word, but a proper word, just stay away from that.
Right.
Website AI, stay away from it, because all you're doing is messing me up and like increasing the chances that I'm actually going to have a typo when I'm actually spelling it right to begin with, when I'm inputting it there. So, yeah, it's a long way of saying I feel your pain, Andre. Thoughts on all 3 Christmas Day NFL games being on paid streaming services, Netflix and Amazon?
Mark, that sucks for a lot of people, I would imagine. Selfishly, I've got both of those, so I'm good. And I would say of all the streaming services, of all the paid services, Netflix and Amazon are probably the 2 most popular. And so having them on those particular services is probably the best if you're going to have it on a paid stream service, right? But it still sucks for people that just don't do streaming. They're not going to be able to watch the games, whereas normally it's on Fox or CBS or whatever, and they can watch those games. So I didn't realize that, Mark. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, because Netflix hasn't been great with live sports. So that's going to be very interesting. They did
well with the Christmas Day games last year.
Okay.
I'll give them that.
Okay.
And it's sounding like that's probably going to become an annual thing, like the Christmas Day, like not only Christmas games on Christmas Day, but Netflix is probably going to end up like getting that package and maybe some other stuff going forward. Like you said, like those two streamers right there have probably the biggest distribution, subscription rate, whatever you want to call it, a number of subscribers. And the reason the NFL loves putting those games on Netflix, especially on a holiday like that, is like globally, they've got the biggest reach of any of the streamers.
There you go.
So like people in all countries
makes
sense. Can watch an NFL game on Netflix. So the NFL loves that possibility. Like me, all I'm concerned about is this is our, like we always do the rotate who travels for holidays. Like last year, all of our family came out, because most of our family is in Kansas. So they all came out here last year. And of course, I've got all the streamers. When we go there, it's going to be a crapshoot depending on where we are. I don't know for sure. Like I know my in-laws have Netflix. I don't know what my dad is set up for at his house. So could be a coin toss.
Yeah, you might have to bring some,
or we might just have to remember our login and
exactly.
log in on ours.
Yep. Just exactly. Does he have a smart TV? Is your dad there yet?
I think he does.
Okay,
but it's been a while since I've had to fool with his TV very much.
Because you can always do the mirror. You can mirror your phone onto the TV. You can do that.
Yeah,
possibility. But
yeah.
Because I don't have a smart TV upstairs, so we have like the Roku box.
Yeah,
upstairs, and so you can use that one. Basically, turns it into a smart TV essentially. So,
right. Yeah, again, I should be able to log in. It's just
you'll be all right. I got faith in you.
Getting it. I can't remember how old his TV is.
Yeah,
because like we bought him over the years a couple of different TVs, and it seems like maybe we upgraded him a few years back, but it's hard to remember when we're basically there every other Christmas. So. Let's see. Scale of 1 to 10. Scale of 1 to hold it. FML. If you were,
you know what FML stands for? I can't say it. It's F my life.
Oh, okay. I don't think I'd ever seen that one. Okay. So if you were taking your family on a vacation to the Wisconsin Dells, how excited would you be to drive I-80 294 around Chicago?
I mean, I've done that a bunch of times.
Those tolls, man. Those tolls.
It's the tolls that get you. I don't mind the actual driving itself, but like every 5 feet, you're paying a toll. So that's the part that sucks. Like other than that, it doesn't really bother me.
We've done the Dells a couple times. We did the Dells as a family vacation when the kids were younger, and then we went back to the Dells a few years later. Jesse had a travel baseball tournament up there, so we've done it a couple times.
Okay,
And then, like we did, what was it? Six Flags, like when Six Flags was up there, and we, Milwaukee. It's just the tolls, man. That's all it is.
That's pretty,
It's just amazing how many freaking tolls you pass on that 294 trying to get north.
It's like every 5 minutes, I'm saying. And you don't realize it because you're driving through them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to stop if you've got the little iPass thing. I've been to Wisconsin Dells as a kid, and then I went with my wife before we had kids. And that's the last time I was up there. So it's been, my kid just graduated high school on Monday. So it's been 18 plus years since I've been to the Wisconsin Dells. So, but I have traveled 294 and I-80 a million times. So just not to go there specifically.
Yeah. But like between South Bend and there, because you got to get through all the tolls to get into Chicago first. And then like Tommy is saying, then you get to 294 and you got a million more tolls going up there.
Right.
And it's like, man, when are the tolls going to stop?
Actually, I think, you know what? The last time I did that, we went on a recruiting visit to a school in Wisconsin, all the way up by Green Bay. So that was the last time we circumnavigated the Chicagoland area.
By the way,
yes,
Green Bay is just a little bit more than a year away.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this RV fantasy.
Yes.
I feel like we need to start coming to fruition.
Get those wheels in motion.
Like actually making this happen.
Yeah. That's 26 season, right?
Yes.
Okay. I agree. I think
Start
we
of
definitely
the 26th season.
Yep. Tommy's
Lambeau
driving.
Field.
And
I've done enough research that I know the Packers have an RV lot up there.
Okay.
I do know that.
You've done
I checked it out a few years ago, before everything got canceled and all that stuff. So I do know they've got an RV lot.
Honestly, we just need to figure out like doing a show on the road, like while we're traveling,
right?
And just driving up there, and we just stay in the RV. Like we just need to get some businesses involved. And I mean, we are surrounded by the RV capital of the world. There's got to be some RV company that wants their name out there.
I would think so.
I'm just saying, has to be.
Put it in the hopper.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be able to solve that in the near future.
I think that is something we need to definitely look at, especially now that summer's kind of kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little extra time on my hands. I think it's time to start figuring this thing out.
I think so. And then it'll be a matter of who sleeps where.
Who gets the king size in the back? And
Tommy, do you snore? That'll be the question.
He's driving. It's all good.
Well, he's got to sleep sometime. All right, Christopher has a start bench cut for us. Man, talk about throwing some gas here. Troy Aikman, Dan Marino, Peyton Manning. Who you starting, who you benching, who you cutting?
This is tough, man. I am going to start Peyton Manning. I just think he's just the smartest quarterback that's kind of ever really been around because he made up for some lack of physical ability. And I want that in my quarterback. I mean, he was a shell of himself and still won a Super Bowl, you know, with Denver. So
I think he's the best modern quarterback.
Yeah. So I'm starting Peyton Manning.
And I'll follow that as well.
Now, this is
the other two are tough because you've got two
tough.
Super Bowls on the one hand, and then you've got the best quarterback to never win a Super Bowl on the other hand, who passed for 1 million yards in the modern era,
and did it on lousy teams.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, started off with some pretty good receivers, Clayton and Duper, but over time, it's not like he had, like he was throwing to a bunch of great ones. And I mean, obviously you can knock Troy Aikman because, the offensive line and the defense, he was on a great team, but he won 3 Super Bowls. I think I said 2 Super Bowls before. He won 3. He won 3 in 4 years.
Yeah. I don't think you can take that away from him. Not any you can't just take Troy Aikman out of the mix and put any quarterback in there and they still would have won 3 Super Bowls. I mean, he had a ton of talent around him. There's no doubt about it, but you still got to have the right guy, doing what he's doing. So I'll you know what? I'll bench Troy and I'll cut Dan.
All right. So, I mean, I think that is very fair. I'm trying to see where Marino still ranks. He still ranks 9th all time in terms of passing yards. And let's see, everyone who ranks ahead of him came after him. Basically, like they played in this era of, big time, passing offenses. Tom Brady over 89,000 yards. Dan Marino still at 61,000 yards. And the only contemporary of his, like guys who played in that, same draft, obviously, John Elway, basically 10,000 yards behind Dan Marino. If that tells you where Marino was for his time. But I think I've got to agree with you. I'm going to go Manning, start, Aikman, bench, Marino, cut. Sorry. Didn't win the big one. You were in a Super Bowl.
He had a chance to. Yeah, he had an opportunity to win it.
Yep.
Didn't.
That's right.
Little did he know that was going to be his only shot at it. But, yeah.
Yeah. Decaf says he'll take a Super Bowl winner over a stat stuffer.
Amanesh is not playing the game correctly. He's just inserting people that were not even in the question. So.
Well, does he want us to do them? Rodgers, Elway, Marino? If we did that, I would start John Elway. I would bench Aaron Rodgers, and I would cut Dan Marino.
I would start.
I know you're going to flip-flop Marino and Rodgers.
Yeah, I would start Elway. I would bench Marino, and I would cut Rodgers. And it's not even all that close.
Of course, not for you.
Nope, not for me.
That involves Aaron Rodgers. It's never going to be that close. Kevin wants to know if you got a good report card. Are you still projected to graduate?
I got a great report card. I'm highly effective. That's the report card that people in my profession get, and I got it high as you can get.
Highly effective.
Highly effective, baby. So I'm good. I'm coming back next year, so it's good. I'm like a kid who never graduated.
Questions.
Oh boy.
Beefeater, best chowder. New England clam chowder, Manhattan chowder, corn chowder, or seafood/fish chowder. Are you a chowder person?
I don't know that I've had that
any
many
kind?
chowders. I do like a good chowder. I like a good corn chowder. Clam chowder's good. I don't know what a Manhattan chowder is. I'm sure
Manhattan chowder is like more red.
Oh, that's going to be last.
Or is that Maryland even? I don't know. Or is Maryland the corn? Is that where you get the?
I like the corn.
I think I'm getting my chowders confused. I'll just make it simple. I love a good cup of New England clam chowder.
Okay.
With the little chowder crackers that you.
Yeah. I'm with you. I would love to go to the East Coast and actually have like an actual New England clam chowder. I'm not that well traveled. But then I would put corn chowder after that. I would put seafood fish after that, and I would put apparently Manhattan at the back end. Yes, he said. NH says
everyone's saying Manhattan is the tomato.
That's a pass. That's a hard pass for me.
Yeah, not especially when you're talking about clam in there. Like the cream and the clam go so well together. Yeah, I think I would go New England corn. I don't think I've had just like straight up seafood fish chowder. So maybe that's one that I need to try at some point. But we live in the Midwest, so that
we don't get a lot of good chowders. That's for sure. We do not get a lot of chowders.
Tommy wants to know, if you roll up or fold an uncut whole pizza, does that make it a burrito?
No.
I see where you're going here.
I do too. It's not the right kind of bread on the outside.
Yeah, wrong bread.
Yeah.
And wrong
inside as well. Yeah.
Now, if it's taco pizza and you fold it up, maybe that's a different.
Oh, Tuncha says that's a calzone, and he's not far off.
There you go.
But that's more of a fold than a roll.
I think that's kind of in the ballpark.
Yeah, it's more of a calzone than it is a burrito, though. I think we can agree on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Outbound says more of a pita.
Well, pitas are like the pocket, and then you like
pita
stuff in, right?
Right.
I don't know. There's a lot of food questions making me hungry.
I know, for sure. All right, well, that is it. And officially, as Mark said, salty-free mailbag today. Good questions in the
salty-free,
no salt mailbag.
I don't know what happened to him.
I know, fell out. Mark says Stromboli.
Okay.
In that ballpark. Vince, my question now is, are you ready for rapid fire?
I'm ready for the first summer version of rapid fire. That's where I'm at.
True.
Yeah.
And it's a feeling like a summer day. It's pretty warm out there today.
It is actually very warm outside. I was actually surprised because it was like in the 50s this morning when I went to work, and then I walk out of work and it's 85. I was like, oh, okay. It's a little different. And then this is the day that they cut off the AC at work. No AC all day.
Gosh.
So
that building, no AC?
Nope, because they're working on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Couldn't have waited till tomorrow?
I know, right? They didn't ask my opinion. So
Notre Dame and Arkansas will kick off at noon Eastern time when the Irish visit the Razorbacks September 27th. In or out on the early start time, Vincenzo?
I think you know that I will take a noon start time any day of the week.
Yeah, baby.
And I love it. I'm so in on it. Selfishly, my son has a game at 2:00 that day. So it's going to make something. I don't know. Something's got to give. We'll have to see how that goes. But
true.
Overall, covering a game, I'm all about noon. Yes, bring it in. I'm so in on the noon game.
Tommy says he's out. I am totally in on this. I love it. Get it going. Get it on. You ask the media, they're going to tell you. If you ask the media this question, essentially, I think you're going to get a near unanimous vote.
Oh, yeah.
In favor of the noon kickoff time. So you're not going to find, especially, we've talked about this before, like should Notre Dame consider like some noon kickoffs as that alternate to the primetime kickoff time? Maybe go head to head with some Fox games or something like that.
I like that.
Like if it's Ohio State versus Maryland, would Notre Dame USC, make sense as a noon game, as an example, or whoever it happens to be. I like it, and you're not going to tell me any different. Now, I did see some people in the Champions Lounge. Joe says he likes the 3:30 time. I don't mind 3:30 but there's
I
still
take 230 over 330.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd take 130 over 230.
Because you figure a 330 game means it's getting over around 7. And then you've got post-game requirements for the media, right? Whether you're writing stories or going to the press conference or doing a show. We're still not done till 10 or 11. So like that's still a late night, no matter how you slice it.
Right.
And
that's
we're
why
missing the night games and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So
that's why people in our seat will always take the earlier games. Here's some other games going on that weekend. Late game, BYU Colorado. That's already scheduled for a 10:15 kickoff. Oregon Penn State is going to be primetime. Alabama Georgia is going to be primetime as well. So you've already got a couple of dueling games in primetime that weekend. Some other games going on that weekend. LSU Ole Miss, decent one. USC Illinois. That kickoff time has not been announced, but that's a potential good one. And then you've got Ohio State at Washington. And so I would imagine that'll probably slot into 3:30, potentially, considering, where the other games are kicking off in primetime because it's going to be on the West Coast and all that kind of stuff. So that's a pretty solid day of college football there, starting at noon with Notre Dame and Arkansas. So
I'm okay with
it. When you look at the other games that are being played that day, I would take that. You get done with Notre Dame, Arkansas, and you've got some pretty solid games to watch the rest of the day and into the night.
And what day is that one again?
That is September 27th.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Oh yeah, that's homecoming for Hillsdale.
Oh man,
can't miss that one.
How are you going to go head to head with Hillsdale's homecoming?
I mean, how can you?
Come on,
like that's come on now.
Fill in the blank. Notre Dame greats Todd Light and Manti Te'o are on the 2026 College Football Hall of Fame ballot. It's blank that Light is not already in the Hall.
Wild. I didn't realize that. I kind of lost touch, to be perfectly honest with you, with College Football Hall of Fame stuff when they moved
out of town
from South Bend to Atlanta. Because I was pretty dialed in at that point. Because we were always kind of a part of it, right? Like the radio station and all of those different things. And since it was local, we covered it. And, you were announcing and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So I was very dialed in then. And then when they moved to Atlanta, I kind of lost touch because the College Football Hall of Fame is wild. Like, they don't put guys in until they're done with their pro career. And there's different rules. And it's just very random. Like the College Football Hall of Fame is just very random.
Well, it is. And I was looking at the election process that for starters, there are 79 former FBS players who are on the ballot this year. There are 100 former FCS players.
Wow.
And 35 coaches. No Mike Leach, by the way, even though they just changed that rule. No Mike Leach on the ballot. So that's a lot of people to consider. And so they send, all these people get their ballot. You do have to the first time you're eligible for the ballot is 10 full seasons after your last college game, but there's all these other requirements as well. But then they send them, so they send out the nominations, the ballots come back in, and then after the ballots come back in, let me see, only the top vote getters, approximately 60 players, are forwarded to the National Football Foundation staff for inclusion on the ballot. So they send out the ballots, you vote, they send it back in, then they narrow it down, and then this honors court goes through this debate and the whole
complicated
thing. Yeah, there's a lot to it. It seems like it's always seemed very random the way the College Football Hall does their voting process and who's eligible. The minimal requirement for players is you have to have been an All-American. Todd Light was a 2-time All-American who played for Notre Dame's last national championship team, who, by the way, was also a first-round draft pick in the NFL. Not that matters for your College Football Hall of Fame eligibility, but Todd Light was a dude back in the day. He was a dude on a great team back in the day, 2-time All-American. It's astounding to me that Light is not in the Hall of Fame already.
Agreed. No, I'm with you. It is astounding.
Somebody needs to get in the room and pound the table for Todd Light this time around because he needs to be in the College Football Hall of Fame.
No doubt. I'm with you.
What about the other guy, Manti Te'o? Is there any reason he shouldn't be inducted this year? Other than the long drawn out process that I just talked about. I guess.
Exactly. Look, he had one of the more celebrated college careers of anybody in college football history, and especially at his position and the way that all went down. You know, linebackers don't get Heisman votes. You know what I mean? Like that just doesn't happen. And he was a finalist.
Yes.
So he absolutely needs to go in right away. I don't care what he did in the NFL. This is not the NFL Hall of Fame. This is the College Football Hall of Fame. He was an elite college football player. And like I said, one of the more celebrated ones of all time. He should be in on the quote unquote first ballot.
Yeah.
If that's a thing.
Like you said, middle linebackers are not Heisman Trophy finalists.
No.
He was a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, and he won, with the exception of the Heisman Trophy, he literally won every other major award that he was eligible for that year. He won the Maxwell, he won the Walter Camp, he won the Bednarik, the Butkus, the Lombardi, the Guerby. He's got to have a whole room from that 1 year that, filled with his trophies from that one season alone, and the only thing I think that could keep him off, here are some of the other guys who were on the ballot this year, because again, there are a lot. Here's some of the more significant guys on the ballot. You got Eric Bieniemy on there. You got Des Bryant on there, which, by the way, my sheet, when I wrote down the name, corrected it to Deb, going back to what we were talking about before. Kajana Carter, Aaron Donald, RG3, Marvin Harrison, Craig Ironhead Hayward, Mark Ingram, former Heisman Trophy winner, Marshawn Lynch, Ndamukong Suh, Ryan Leaf, Antoine Randall L. They're all on the ballot this year. So, that could literally be the only thing that keeps Manti out.
He's better than every one of those people.
They're just.
I realize he didn't win the Heisman.
Again, look at what he did and the fact that he's a middle linebacker who was a Heisman Trophy finalist, unheard of.
Right.
Totally unheard of. That alone, anyone who's voting this year is completely stupid if you're not voting for Manti Te'o.
Correct.
Because of that alone.
And you can't take into account any of the other stuff. It's what he did on the field. That's what matters, right? And he belongs in the Hall of Fame. 100%, absolutely.
Tommy says RG3 for what? Well, he did win the Heisman.
He did.
So there's that.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Yep. Joe Allen, who saw plenty of Ndamukong Suh, being from Nebraska, says he's a dirty player. Well,
you're not totally wrong, but he's also
a great player.
Yeah. He's also really good.
Yep. Fill in the blank. It's blank that former Notre Dame women's basketball teammates Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles are among 21 players competing to make the Team USA roster this summer for the FIBA AmeriCup team. AmeriCup team. I said that wrong. AmeriCup.
It's juicy. It's juicy.
Wouldn't you like to be there?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would want to be at practice and I would want to be in the team functions and all of those things just to see kind of how that all goes down. Because look, we know there's drama for whatever it is. We know there's some drama. So I would like to be juicy. That's where I'm at. It's juicy.
Very juicy, especially after the video from a month or two. How long has it been? A little bit more than a month ago, I guess, at this point when they were there at the WNBA preseason exhibition game.
And what's it going to look like if they both make the team?
I was thinking about that as well. And I would have to think that there's a very good chance they both make the team.
They're both really, really good players.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're literally two of the best players in the country.
Yes.
And I think that there's a really good chance that they both make the team. And
is this like a U22 or something like that, or is it just Team USA?
It is. Let me see if I have my deets here. They're going to go to Santiago, Chile, June 28th through July 6th for the 2025 FIBA Women's AmeriCup.
Okay.
US will play in Group B. Yeah, so it's basically
it's just Team USA.
This is Team USA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there's been some past Notre Dame players that have been on like the U20 team and like things like that, but they've been representing their country, which is
typically
awesome.
like pre-college or
right.
So they end up on those teams. So.
I was just curious as to if it was like actual Team USA or like an offshoot. But yeah, I mean, they're two of the best players in the country. They both deserve to be at that tryout. And frankly, depending on who's on the roster of people that are trying out for this team, they probably both deserve to make it.
I think so.
You know?
A lot of drama, though. I'd watch that docuseries.
Oh, I would too. I really would. I mean, you got a fairly front row seat to it all season, but I also know it wasn't an issue all season.
There was never any drama.
Right.
That I
drama
saw.
Was towards the end of the season, if at all.
Basically,
really.
when the season was over.
Yeah.
That's when, like, anything I think that was worth seeing or hearing came out.
Right.
Never saw anything on any plane, bus,
wild
hotel, otherwise. So, yeah. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame men's basketball hosting DePaul in an exhibition game in October, rather, is blank.
Weird. They used to be in the same conference, and now they're hosting exhibition games against each other. Like,
they're doing these. They've given like these exemptions the last few years to do exhibition games rather than playing like the D2s and lower
that's
level
better.
schools.
It's better. It's going to be better competition. Obviously, DePaul's still in the Big East.
Yes.
Does that sound right? Okay.
Yep.
So they're a Division I program. They should put up a bigger fight than the directional schools that they bring in. I mean,
I'm just like, why don't you just put them on the non-conference schedule?
Right. Why does that have to be an exhibition? It's just weird.
Yeah. That's the first thing I wondered. Like,
yeah.
We haven't seen what the schedule is going to look like, but and DePaul's been better the last few years, so maybe that's why you play them in an exhibition, and neither team has to worry about the result, and everybody's excited. It obviously used to be one of those really juicy basketball rivals.
It was like right down the street, essentially. I mean, just right over in Chicago, and that was always a rivalry game. And it obviously fell by the wayside when Notre Dame left the Big East. But yeah. And Joe says, worried we could lose to them. Sure. Why would you not be worried about that? If that's the first exhibition game of the year, it's gonna be the first time these guys are playing together.
Yeah, and in an exhibition game, you don't have to worry about the result. So it's cool they're doing it. Would have been even cooler if it was a regular season game. But again, you don't have to worry about the result this way. You just play it, see what you got against what should be a fairly quality team right away, and get ready for your season.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks about this Notre Dame team going into the year. So
they're going to play another exhibition game down in Indy against Butler. Notre Dame is.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah. And that's, again, like we've never seen that regular season matchup. And I think that would be fun. Like that was something Mike Bray always kind of steered away from because he didn't want to.
You didn't want to get beat by Butler?
I think that was probably part of it after Butler got good.
Right.
Especially. But yeah, just never really was that interested in dipping his toes into the waters there.
Mm-hmm.
So. But that's, so you got exhibitions against Butler and DePaul. Yeah. You get to challenge yourself a little
bit. Well, they used to, when they had the Crossroads Classic, those are the four teams. It would have been, Purdue, IU, Butler, and Notre Dame. Right. But IU and Purdue couldn't play each other because they play, obviously, during their conference schedule. Yeah. So that meant that Notre Dame and Butler didn't play each other because you played two games. You know what I mean? So, yeah, very interesting set of exhibition games. It's not the boring ones that they've been playing in the past. So it'll be something to watch, actually.
Absolutely. Dolly, thank you very much for the wow, holy cow. I just saw that. I thought it was $10, and then I looked and there was an extra zero. Thank you very much for that super chat.
Wow, Dolly. Dolly.
She said, if you guys drive to Lambeau Field, I'll drive the 72 miles to visit with you at the tailgate.
Done.
Love this show. Love you too. Thanks, you very
Dolly.
much.
I mean, if we're going to bring an RV, we're going to have to tailgate.
Right.
I mean, that just comes with the territory, right?
The whole point of it, or part of the point of it.
Yeah.
I guess.
100%. Like we can spend the night like in the Walmart parking lot. There's got to be one nearby because that's free. We'll go inside, get all the food, put it on the RV, take it over to Lambeau.
There you go.
Party hardy.
I've been watching, like on my social media, I watched like one of these van life videos, and now my feed is filled with van life stuff. So I'm getting all the secrets of, like where you park if you're van life. Apparently Cracker Barrel is a very good place. Like Cracker Barrel lets like the RVs and campers, they've got space for them out there, and they let you stay overnight if you want. So,
and they're all right along the freeway all the time. So
right on the highway most of the time.
Makes a lot of sense.
Tommy wants to know if I'll be bringing a bottle of scotch or brandy. I'm not a scotch person by any means. Scotch, whiskey, bourbon, totally out. I've never had brandy. Like, I don't know why, but I've never tried brandy. I'm going to guess you probably haven't either.
Not, at least not recently.
Give me an idea. What's brandy taste like? Not you. Like, this is
okay. Like, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
served a lot of it. I imagine it being like a little bit deeper, kind of taste, maybe a little bit more aromatic and sweet tasting than like a scotch or a whiskey or, any of that kind of stuff. That's kind of what I've always sort of pictured it.
The only brandy
Tommy says brandy is good stuff. Well, that doesn't tell me what it tastes like, but
the only brandy I'm aware of was a singer back in the 90s. Like that's where I'm
right.
at.
Speaking of basketball, some interesting rules changes that are on the way for both men's and women's college basketball this season. They're both going to now be able to challenge calls on the court. In the men's game, coaches are going to be able to challenge a review of an out-of-bounds call, basket interference / goaltending, and whether or not a secondary defender was in the restricted arc area around the basket. To make the challenge, you'll need to use a timeout, and if the challenge is successful, they'll be allowed one additional review for the rest of the game, including overtime. NCAA says the changes in the men's game aim to enhance the flow of the game. So, do you buy or sell this?
I don't know how often they're going to be stop and play to do this. The things that they're going to be challenging, I don't feel like are, maybe towards the end of the game, like that kind of a deal, like when those things are really important. But like an out of bounds play, like, I don't know. You can't challenge fouls. I feel like there would be a lot of challenges if you were challenging fouls. So I don't see this is going to be used a whole lot.
I don't know how this. Yeah, I don't know how this improves the flow of the game.
No, it slows it down.
If you're stopping the game to review a call on something as innocuous on out of bounds, like you said, are you going to save it for the end of the game? Like, it just feels like this is kind of a nothing burger. So you can review basket interference / goaltending again. So when are you going to use it? At most, you're going to get 2 reviews per game because they say you got to use a timeout. If it's successful, you get one more review the rest of the game, including overtime. So, like, it just,
I
don't know. I'm kind of out on this because of the way they're wording this. I don't think that it helps the flow of the game. I just think that it clunks the game up. Like watching enough NBA games, like all replayed, or even, like there are things that they review the game for at the end of the game already. And it just makes things last forever because they spend too long reviewing it.
And they would review goaltending. They would review an out of bounds. They would review all the things that they're allowed to challenge now. Like, I don't know. Doesn't get me too excited, I can tell you that.
In the women's game,
this is more interesting.
Yeah, I think so as well. In the women's game, coaches are going to be issued a challenge, but the rule to get there is different. Coaches will be able to challenge ruled out of bounds violations, ruled backcourt violations, whether a change in team possession occurred before the ruling of a foul, where free throws would be involved, and whether a foul was assessed to the correct player. Like that last one seems like the best one.
I kind of like that, actually, because there's a lot of times where, a player who's in foul trouble, they call it on somebody else, and I would be like, hey, throw my challenge flag. Like, nope, that was on the person with 4 fouls. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. I like that one, actually. But continue. I know you got more to say here.
Yeah. So we went through what you can challenge. here's the difference. In the women's game, teams will not need to have a timeout to make the challenge. Like Joe is asking, without using a timeout for your additional review, you would still have to use the timeout on the men's side to make your additional review. So you would have to have a timeout to make it. For the women, you don't need to have a timeout to make a challenge, but instead, if you lose your challenge, it results in a technical foul for an excessive timeout.
I love that, by the way. Now that's only if you don't have a timeout.
No, you don't use a timeout to make the challenge.
Oh, okay.
But if you lose the challenge, you're assessed a technical foul.
Good. It will prevent people from challenging. Keep the game flowing.
So why even have? I mean,
I like having the option because if you are fairly convinced as a coach that there's that something needs to be reviewed, then you better be confident. Otherwise, the other team's going to get 2 points. I don't know, man. I kind of like the penalty. It's going to prevent a bunch of innocuous stoppages of play. In my opinion,
that is true. But again, like, why the difference from men's to women's in how?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that I agree with.
Why not just say you use a timeout, and if you lose it, you lose your timeout. If you win it, you get another challenge, but you still have to use a timeout. I just don't like this technical foul thing.
Well, here's what
you like it because it discourages.
Right. That was my first gut instinct. And I will say,
but if you're going to have the system, don't you want people to encourage the coaches to use it if you think it's legit?
I don't know if I want to encourage coaches to use it, but
that's true.
I would say the change that I would make for the women's and the men's game, for that matter, is you do need a timeout to challenge, and if you don't have a timeout, then you can be assessed the technical foul.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like you can still challenge, but there's a little bit heavier of a penalty if it doesn't go your way. Like that's what I would do. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. But it doesn't prevent you from using a challenge if you're out of your timeouts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's what I would do. There's just a stiffer penalty for it.
I can see that. I just like this whole technical foul thing is where I'm hung up because. So then what happens? Like, is it just a team technical foul or does it go to the coach?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because then if you challenge twice and you get hit with 2 T's, are you ejected at that point? Yeah.
That's a great question.
I don't know.
Gonna need some clarification on that.
I think so as well. Somebody can get back to us who knows more than that, but it just very detailed with the whole.
It's still wild to me how different the men's game is from the women's game from a rules standpoint.
Well, and apparently they discussed the whole men going to quarters thing. That was a discussion point. The when they came up with these rules, but they decided to keep the men's at halves rather than quarters. And the main reason right now is you lose commercial inventory if you go to quarters potentially. And that's what they've got to figure out is the TV aspect of it. So once again, TV is dictating everything. Even though all the other levels of basketball, international, NBA, high school, women's college basketball, they're all quarters. And somehow, especially like NBA and women's college basketball, whose games are on TV all the time.
Correct.
They can figure out the TV inventory. But the men, because you've got an extra commercial break, all of a sudden everyone's going to get hosed.
But there's 3 breaks in with halves, right? 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay, so there's 4 breaks, and then there would only
16, 12, 8, 4.
So there's four breaks. And then for the women, it's 5 quarter, 5 half. So you're missing out on a
short a break. Yeah.
Gotcha. Just make the break longer. I mean, whatever.
Or stick it in halftime.
Yeah, exactly.
Or do an extra pregame break.
Right.
Something.
Less talking from the talking heads at halftime.
Or like do what they've done with like some of these other sports, like they do it in football, I think sometimes to kind of keep the game flowing a little bit, is like just do the like picture in picture where they put an ad, like a quick 15-second up on the screen or something like that. There are plenty of ways to make it happen.
Correct. You just got to think outside the box.
A lot of smart people running the sport. There's no reason that should be what's slowing it up. I personally think that quarters like for game flow, like we were just talking about game flow. Personally, I think like game flow in the women's game is so much better than the men's game because of the quarters.
For a long time, I was just here nor there on either one. Like it didn't really matter to me. But the more I think about it and the more I've watched the women's game and things like that, I really enjoy end of period basketball, right? Yeah. I mean, and you're going to get more last second shots. You're going to get more, more strategy at the end of periods, like all of those different things. Like,
right.
You're not going to have strategy in the middle of the first half. You know what I mean? There's no last second buzzer beater and, things like that. So I don't get it. I mean, that makes more of an exciting product.
Craig says Fort Wayne TV will show the commercials at the last 30 seconds. Yes.
Good job, Craig.
Remember, they preempted
I like that.
The game one of the NBA Finals last week with a news tease that lasted.
Is it 1-1 right now?
It is.
Okay.
Yep. Series is back in Indy tonight.
Okay.
Yep. Oakland A's center fielder Denzel Clark went up over the wall on what StatCast projected as what would have been as a 398-foot drive hit by Anaheim's Nolan Schnall to rob him of a home run last night. Do you buy or sell? Now, did you do your homework? Did you watch it?
I watched it.
You buy or sell it as more impressive than Derek Jeter's famous running catch when he falls into the stands at Yankee Stadium?
First of all, I'd already seen it before you sent it to me. So I inadvertently did my homework early. I think it was more impressive. Number one, he had to go up higher to make that catch, track the ball longer. And Jeter didn't have to.
He had to climb to get there.
I mean, Jeter, look, you had to go into the stands. Like, that's not an easy thing to do.
But Jeter made the catch like 15 feet and then
ran
on the field, and then his momentum takes him out.
Correct.
But everybody's always made it out like it's the most impressive catch ever.
No, it's not even close. I saw on the X today, remember Jim Edmonds, like Superman catch like towards the wall as he was it was a hit to center field, and he's on his horse heading for the wall, dives, catches the ball midair, and then lands. Like, that's an even more impressive catch than the Jeter thing. Like, come on.
Tommy's calling me out on saying Anaheim. You're right. Like, I guess they're, technically Los Angeles. But if Tommy can...
Aren't they the LAA, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim?
Right. So, and Tommy, if you can sit in here in the chat and still call Cleveland the Indians, then I can say Anaheim. So, right? Touche. Come on. Fess up. This Clark thing is completely more impressive. Like when you watch him, because it wasn't like one of those short walls.
No, he
was
had
like
to
a legit regular wall. He climbs, he goes up, he's holding himself up. He goes over the wall to rob him of that home run. It's impressive. And it's the second time that he's done it in the last week as well.
When he ran, like, he caught the ball and then like ran into the wall earlier this week. Like, that'll ring your bell, man. And he still held on. So that was even more. That catch was more impressive than the Jeter catch.
I concur. Totally concur.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive. Great young player.
Because it's Jeter. Everybody blows it out of proportion.
Look, Jeter.
I'm a self-proclaimed Yankees hater, so that's part of it. But
they're with you.
Like, and like the whole wasn't he the one also that like caught the ball like and like threw it not behind his back, but like, to get the guy out, Giambi out at home against the A's. Remember that one?
Yeah.
In the playoffs,
the little shovel
first
pass.
Of all, I don't think he was out at home. And second of all, I wasn't even all that impressed with the throw. So there you go.
The heads up nature of the play, I will give him on that one. But yeah. Come on, Michael. He says it's the Indians unless you're all about he had a typo. He says, unless you're all about the woke culture. They literally changed the name. So you can call it whatever you want. They literally changed the name.
They did.
So like that's the name of the team is not the Indians anymore. I realize people are, hung up on that, but they literally changed the name. So it's, it's like whatever. But I get what you're saying. Who are you rooting for in the College World Series? From Omaha, I'll be down there this weekend, Pat says. Do you have anyone you're pulling for this weekend?
I don't know who's playing, so I don't have anybody that I'm pulling
Murray
for.
State is in the College World Series.
I'm a fan of the underdog. They took out some big people, didn't they? Didn't they take out some? They took out Vanderbilt, right?
Murray State.
Didn't they?
No, Wright State took out Vanderbilt.
Oh, Wright State.
Murray State beat Duke in the Super Regional. I can't remember whose regional they came out of. Oregon State is there. They knocked Florida State out.
Okay.
UCLA is there. Arkansas is there.
LSU some new names
is there.
Well, LSU, but
yeah,
you've got
Coastal Carolina is there.
Okay.
That might be who I'm pulling for. Coastal Carolina.
I like their colors.
Yeah. I'd be pulling for LSU if my old friend was still there, but he's not. So hopefully he's got South Carolina there within a few.
Yeah, I can't root for LSU.
I do agree with this, Craig. Guardians is a bad name.
They could have done such a better job of
that's what makes it, I think, you know, the worst is you've got this tradition and the whole, you know, like Guardians is, and I realized they tried to do it with this. There's like the Guardians of Cleveland, and there's a bridge,
that bridge,
you know, and
that
whole thing. I got that whole history from Jesse because he lived there when they made the change a few years back.
I was a fan of the Spiders because that was an actual team that was in Cleveland, you know, back in the day. So that's what I was rooting for, and obviously it doesn't matter. So
Joe says stay out of Council Bluffs, Iowa, right? Council Bluffs, I would actually recommend staying in Council Bluffs if you find the right hotel. We were not in the right hotel. We were in the kind of hotel that, based on what the inside of this room looked like, you know, may have been used on a short-term basis by, you know, certain people, is what I would say. So
fair enough.
I would say the Motel 6 in Council Bluffs. Yes, hourly rates. That's right, Joe. The Motel 6 I stayed in Council Bluffs during the World Series a few years back. Perfectly good hotel at a great rate. I would recommend that. You're obviously not going to get very many amenities, but it's a good enough room to spend the night if all you're going to do is go to baseball games all day. So I would highly recommend that. All right. That's going to do it for tonight. Great questions, as always, in the mailbag. Hit that like button before you leave. We do appreciate it. Thanks again to Dolly. Man.
Killing it.
If I could put that super chat back up there once again. We're really going to have to figure out that that Lambo trip now, if she's going to drive 72 miles to come join us
100%
at an tailgate. Yeah.
It needs to happen.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that, Craig. He says Council Bluffs better than Omaha. I don't know. Joe might take you up on, want to wrestle with you on that one, but all right, hit the like button and we'll talk to you tomorrow. IB Nation Sports Talk.